I witnessed him engaged in that act, and I found myself unable to tear my gaze away. A genuine tale of betrayal. The London drizzle mingles with a reckless spark. Greetings, esteemed audience. Are you prepared to acknowledge that, at times, being nice simply falls short? Are you prepared to face the subtle murmur of desire that lingers just below the facade of an otherwise commendable existence? Because I was, and what unfolded thereafter. Indeed, it transformed the entire landscape. If you have ever longed for something more, something vibrantly and thrillingly alive, then continue on. This is intended for you. Imagine this. As I stroll along a serene London street, the grey, drizzly morning envelopes the city in a damp embrace, creating an atmosphere that feels both intimate and melancholic. My thoughts drift aimlessly, as they often do in recent times. I am 65 years old and have been happily married to Nathan for 4 decades. Gentle, steadfast, kind Nathan. And let me clarify, pleasant is indeed pleasant. Yet, pleasantness fails to quicken the pulse. Being nice lacks the ability to ignite excitement. Nice simply exists. Recently, I've found myself pondering whether simply existing is truly sufficient. Amidst my wandering thoughts, the rhythmic sound of my sensible shoes tapping against the pavement draws my attention, and there he is. A young man, perhaps in his early 20s, casually leaning against a brick wall as if it were his domain. He sports a tousled mane, a well-worn leather jacket that has clearly weathered its share of adventures, and hold on, is he? Oh my goodness, he truly is. He's stepping away for a moment. Whistling, right there on a bustling public street. For a fleeting moment, I find myself paralyzed, my thoughts colliding in a chaotic tangle. I ought to feel revulsion. I ought to traverse the street, steer clear of him, perhaps even cast a disapproving glance his way. Yet, I find myself continuing to walk toward him. What is the reason behind this? I am uncertain. Perhaps it's his nonchalant demeanor, as if he remains unfazed by the gaze of onlookers. Perhaps it's his appearance, as if he has just emerged from the depths of a raw, independent film. Perhaps it's due to the fact that, after so many years, I am experiencing emotions beyond mere niceness. As I approach, I murmur it gently, as if gauging the atmosphere. Beg your pardon? He jolts, hastily fastening his jacket, and his gaze meets mine with intensity. For a fleeting moment, he resembles a child discovered with his hand deep in the cookie jar. Then he offers a sly smirk. Apologies, my mistake, he murmurs, his tone subdued, carrying a hint of gravel. And this is the aspect I find difficult to articulate. I maintain my gaze. I linger in my gaze, extending it beyond what is deemed suitable. He possesses an intriguing quality. His posture speaks volumes. His lack of sincerity in apologies is striking. His gaze lingers on me, as if he's attempting to unravel the mysteries that lie within. It's exhilarating. And incorrect. And exhilarating because it defies convention. I reluctantly pull my gaze from the scene and continue on my path. What on earth just transpired? Indeed, that transpired. Before you cast any judgments my way, allow me to clarify. I am not merely a cougar on the hunt, all right? I am a mature woman who has dedicated the past 4 decades to a life that has been satisfactory. Merely satisfactory. Yet, for some inexplicable reason, throughout the remainder of my journey home, he lingered in my thoughts. The manner in which he carried himself. The manner in which he smirked suggested he held a secret close to his chest. The manner in which his hands. Cease this, Grace. Upon my arrival, Nathan welcomed me in his usual manner. Hello, Grace, where have you been hiding? Text, I just returned from my walk, I remarked, placing my coat on the chair. He prepared breakfast for me, fluffy scrambled eggs, golden toast, and a steaming cup of coffee. His customary effort to display affection. I truly valued it. I truly did. As I settled into my meal, an unnameable twinge stirred within me. Remorse? No, that wasn't exactly right. Free from blame. More akin to entertainment. As Nathan poured honey into his tea, my mind wandered to the image of a young man's hands clutching a brick wall. Absurd. My heart was acting rather foolishly. Nathan pressed his lips gently to my forehead before departing for work. As soon as the door clicked shut, I found myself compelled to act in a manner befitting a woman of my standing. I devoted the afternoon to perusing images of attractive men on the internet. It was merely a benign pastime. A touch of visual allure has never caused harm to anyone. However, it was the following morning that the events took a captivating turn. As I stepped out for my walk, rounding the corner, my jaw almost met the pavement in disbelief. The same individual. Identical location. Identical endeavor. I paused, captivated by his presence for just a heartbeat. He remained oblivious to my presence. At that moment, I had the option to simply turn and leave. He could have been overlooked by me. I was simply attending to my own affairs. Yet, one must ponder, where lies the joy in such a notion? Are you weary of merely okay? Are you prepared to embrace the thrill of the unforeseen? An adventure of your own is on the horizon. Embrace the courage to embark on your journey. I moved in a bit, my hands tucked into the pockets of my coat, and remarked, "You truly have a fondness for this place to relieve yourself, don't you?" He coughed, taken aback, and hastily zipped up. Alas, caught once more. After a moment's pause, a smirk crept across his face. This is peculiar. It feels reminiscent, as if time has folded back upon itself. The matrix is experiencing a disturbance. A chuckle escaped my lips. Truly found it amusing. A genuine, side-splitting laugh. I was completely unaware that I was flirting, engaging in playful banter with a man caught in the act. What on earth was the matter with me? I departed from that moment, my head shaking in disbelief. What an absurd little encounter. My home lay just a few doors away, and before crossing the threshold, I paused in my yard, kneeling to examine my plants closely. One of the leaves bore the marks of time, with holes punctuating its surface. Most likely caterpillars. I let out a soft sigh, my fingers gliding over its surface. In that moment, I sensed the weight of gazes upon me. I raised my gaze. Once more, he stood before me. As he strolled by my house, his hands tucked into his pockets, he suddenly noticed me and came to an abrupt halt. "Oh, so you reside in this place?" I stood tall, brushing the dust from my hands, taken aback. I believed I merely roamed the streets in search of men with captivating quirks. He emitted a brief chuckle. Yet, I had more to say. I inclined my body forward, softening my tone just a touch. "Text," I pondered, tilting my head thoughtfully. "You crossed my mind today," his smirk faltered. "Indeed?" "Indeed," I replied, maintaining an air of utter innocence in my demeanor. "Curious about how someone of your caliber navigates challenges when there's no support to rely on." He blinked, his lips parting ever so slightly. A smile graced my lips. Delightful, pure, understanding. In that fleeting moment, words eluded him. He released a brief, airy chuckle, running his fingers through his hair. "My, how perilous you are." I merely shrugged my shoulders, exclusively for those with poor precision and limited capacity. It brought a chuckle from him. Truly laugh, a profound sound of surprise, as if he were unaccustomed to being the one caught off guard. All right, he interjected, chuckling. In my defense, there are moments when the call of nature arrives unannounced, demanding attention at the most inopportune times. I pondered, tapping my chin thoughtfully. "Perhaps you simply enjoy the presence of an audience." His jaw fell open just a fraction, leaving him momentarily at a loss for words. He chuckled softly, a shake of his head accompanying the sound. "You truly are one of a kind, madam." "Grace," I amended, a subtle smirk playing on my lips, "given our newfound familiarity." Grace, he murmured, savoring my name as if he were trying it on for size. It's a pleasure to finally make your acquaintance. My name is Adam. At that moment, the door creaked ajar. Nathan. His timing was nothing short of perfect. Nathan cast a glance our way, his brow arching in surprise. The young man, commendably, bounced back swiftly. Well, he said, taking a step back. It seems our paths will cross again soon. Oh, I have no doubt you will, I replied with a gentle smile. He flashed a grin, shook his head as if uncertain of how to handle my presence, and then strolled away. Nathan watched him leave, then shifted his gaze to me. Who might that be? I gestured with a hand wave. Ah, merely a foolish youth seeking a bit of spare change. Nathan's brow furrowed in displeasure. He doesn't appear to be without a home. Ah, these young men of today, perpetually seeking something to fulfill their desires. Nathan merely shrugged, acquiescing to the situation with little contemplation. Naturally, he did. I mentioned he was kind, didn't I? Excessively kind. Perhaps that was the crux of the issue. Within the confines of the house, Nathan found himself enveloped in one of his moods. I noticed him gazing at me from across the table, his eyes resting a moment too long, a flicker of hope shimmering within them. With a heavy heart, I let out a sigh. We found ourselves in the bedroom. He was filled with anticipation, reminiscent of a child eagerly tearing into a birthday present, fully aware of what lay within. Indeed, it was perfectly acceptable, delightful, unsurprising. In the aftermath, I found myself lying there, gazing up at the ceiling. Nathan in bed could be likened to a microwave meal. Swift, consistent, and devoid of any genuine taste. It was gratifying from a technical perspective, yet it lacked the allure that would leave one yearning for more. I craved the allure of the forbidden, the thrill of the raw and the dangerous. Ever since I laid eyes on that young man, the way he bore himself, rugged and nonchalant, I haven't been able to shake him from my thoughts. It was misguided, yet there was an undeniable sense of correctness in it. The following morning, I set out for my customary walk, a thrill of anticipation humming beneath my skin. Would he make an appearance once more? Could we expect yet another electrifyingly intense meeting? Yet, as I arrived at the corner, there was nothing to be found. A solitary street, devoid of life. I paused for a moment, feigning an adjustment of my shoe, scanning the surroundings with a curious gaze. Yet again, there is nothing. Very well, I had no intention of waiting for him. That would be utterly absurd. I made my way homeward. However, I chose not to enter immediately. I knelt beside my plants once more, my fingertips lightly brushing against the leaves. Any pretext to prolong the passage of time, even just a bit. Then, from the periphery of my vision, a flicker of motion. There he strolled, meandering down the street, making his way in this direction. On this occasion, he ventured beyond his familiar destination. Fascinating. A sly smile crept across my face as I tightened my grip on the water bottle in my hand. As he strolled past, he called out, "Hey, Grace," his pace easing to a halt. "How are you doing?" I rested against the fence, my eyes sparkling with a hint of mischief. "You didn't relieve yourself today." He halted abruptly, his eyes growing wide, before he erupted into laughter. I raised my bottle high. "Here, accept this. Keep your thirst at bay." With a grin, he shook his head and accepted it from my hands. "Ah, I had no idea you appreciated the performance." I raised an eyebrow. "My thoughts were solely focused on your well-being." 8 glasses a day, as you might expect. He unscrewed the cap with a deliberate motion and savored a slow sip, his gaze fixed on me from above the rim. "Your consideration is truly appreciated." "I make an effort," I replied, my smile warm and inviting. His gaze lingered, filled with curiosity. "So, Grace, do you often offer water to unfamiliar men? Or perhaps those who leave a lasting first impression?" I tapped my chin, feigning deep contemplation. merely those who possess detrimental habits. Is that so? He lifted the glass to his lips once more, savoring the moment. So, Grace, do you find yourself indulging in any bad habits? Ah, he was beginning to understand now. I moved in a little nearer, softening my tone just slightly. Several. His Adam's apple quivered slightly. Indeed, a smirk played on my lips. My habits leave much to be desired. However, you might find them beyond your capacity to manage. He released a soft, breathy laugh, tilting his head slightly. Is that truly the case? I pivoted, making my way to the entrance of my home. Why not step inside? Shall we share a morning meal together? He paused, casting a wary glance down the street. I rested against the door frame, my arms folded across my chest. What seems to be the trouble? Afraid of a mere morning meal? That was the turning point. He let out a sharp breath, then shrugged his shoulders. What on earth? He entered the room. I shut the door softly after he left. In the kitchen, I seized a knife and some onions, gliding them across the counter with a deliberate motion. Here, I remarked, extending the knife toward him. You chop these, he chuckled. I was unaware that I would be called upon to labor. I leaned closer, my gaze fixed on his hand as it tightened around the knife. Oh, it's not working, I whispered. I simply wish to capture your essence in the dish, nothing more. He halted in his chopping, casting a glance my way that mingled amusement with an undercurrent of something more sinister. I met his eyes, suppressing a grin. We glided through the kitchen, preparing our meal as if we had danced this familiar choreography countless times before. It flowed effortlessly, as if it were meant to be. As I twirled the spatula in the pan, I extended my hand, gently leading his over the handle alongside mine. In this manner, I whispered. He tensed momentarily, then eased as we mixed the food, my hand resting atop his. Silence enveloped us. As we finally gathered around the table to share our meal, an unusual hunger lingered in the atmosphere. Following breakfast, I retrieved 2 beers from the fridge, casually tossing one in his direction. He seized it, arching an eyebrow in intrigue. Morning beer, and who might be the real instigator here? I gently tapped my bottle against his. Will you endure? We transitioned to the lounge, bodies near, the atmosphere heavy with unvoiced sentiments. I savored the drink, allowing a smirk to play on my lips. Shall we indulge in a cozy evening of Netflix and relaxation? He let out a soft chuckle, his fingers tangling in his tousled hair. It seems like it's time for me to take my leave. I arched an eyebrow. What is the reason behind this? He ran his fingers across the nape of his neck. Your spouse. I gestured with a hand wave. I shall not return until the evening hours. I observed his moment of uncertainty. A trial once more. Are you free from any other commitments, then? I inquired, tilting my head slightly. He paused for a moment, then slowly shook his head. No, not in that way. With a blanket in hand, I enveloped myself in its warmth, then lifted a corner, gently patting the vacant spot beside me. Step inside. He clenched his beer tightly in his hand. I raised an eyebrow. Afraid of a touch of warmth? A languid smirk danced across his lips before he settled into his seat. The blanket rustled as he draped it over his legs, the distance between us abruptly seeming exceedingly narrow. This promised to be intriguing. With careful consideration, I navigated through the choices before making a purposeful selection of a film. The film began to unfold, the soft luminescence from the screen dancing across our faces. I sank further into the warmth of the blanket, my body lightly grazing his as the story on the screen began to unfold. A tale unfolds between a seasoned woman and a youthful man. My gaze drifted toward him, a fleeting gaze in one direction, a prolonged stare in another. He shifted in his seat, rolling his shoulders and adjusting his position with a subtle grace. Apprehensive, striving to maintain composure, I suppressed a smile. His reaction was delightful. In a moment charged with intensity, I leaned in and murmured, "What are your thoughts?" He cleared his throat, a subtle prelude to the words that were about to follow. "Concerning what matter?" I inclined my head. "The interplay." He let out a brief chuckle, raising his beer to his lips. "It is, quite frankly, intriguing." I allowed the silence to linger for a moment before I continued. "Do you believe the older women are exploiting the situation?" He cast a fleeting glance in my direction before breaking into a grin. "Perhaps it is the reverse." A sly smile crept across my face. "Do you believe the young men are the true architects behind it all?" He let out a soft chuckle. "It wouldn't be surprising at all." I inclined my body forward, just a touch. "And what would you do, were you in their position?" For a fleeting moment, his jaw tightened, but he quickly masked it with a practiced smirk. "I believe I would manage quite well." A soft, amused hum escaped my lips. "Oh, is that the level of confidence we're talking about?" He swept his fingers through his hair, a sudden awareness dawning upon him of just how intimate our proximity was beneath this blanket. I elongated my limbs with a languid grace, ensuring that my thigh brushed against his ever so lightly. "It seems you're feeling quite uneasy," I playfully taunted, taking a sip of my beer. He let out a derisive laugh. I remained steadfast, unyielding in my stance. I allowed my eyes to wander downward with deliberate slowness before reconnecting with his gaze. "Indeed." A muscle in his jaw quivered. A smile crept across my face as I observed him attempting to maintain his composure. This was quite enjoyable. As I spoke, my fingertip danced along the edge of the beer bottle, tracing its rim with a gentle touch. "Share a thought with me." He arched an eyebrow. "What is this?" I pressed my lips together, feigning contemplation. "Should an older woman find herself drawn to a younger man, what qualities do you suppose she might seek in him?" His smirk diminished ever so slightly. He was aware of my actions. I observed the subtle motion of his throat as he swallowed. "Well," he remarked, adjusting his position, his voice lowering slightly. "It seems she would desire a companion who can anticipate her needs, understanding them even before she herself is aware." I inclined my head with deliberation. "Proceed." He breathed out through his nose, casting a fleeting look at the screen before his gaze returned to mine. "Someone who perceives her essence, who truly senses her in every manner she has longed for." A gentle warmth began to envelop me, spreading slowly within. I inclined my head, a smile gracing my lips. "That is an excellent response." At last, he pivoted to face me, locking eyes with mine. "Indeed?" I maintained his gaze, then leisurely brought the cool bottle to my lips for another sip of beer. "Indeed." The air was heavy with unspoken words, electric and palpable. The film continued to unfold, yet neither of us paid it any heed. I edged nearer, my heart racing, yet I stood firm without a moment's pause. Our lips met in a gentle embrace. He stiffened for a moment, completely taken by surprise, but then he returned my kiss, and in an instant, the floodgates burst forth. His hands encircled my waist, drawing me into his lap as if this moment had been anticipated all along. His breath brushed against me, his fingers gliding over my skin as if he sought to imprint every contour in his memory. This is something I ought not to be engaging in. I was aware of that, yet it held no significance for me. It was chaotic, untamed, reminiscent of emotions I had long since buried. Furthermore, we pressed on, undeterred. It was only when we found ourselves breathless, entwined on the couch, his arms resting languidly around me. For a fleeting moment, we simply reclined, savoring the stillness, but then the weight of reality descended upon us. I jolted upright. "It is time for you to leave." He blinked, lingering in a haze of confusion. "What is this?" I seized his shirt and flung it toward him. At that moment, before Nathan, a leisurely, self-assured smile unfurled upon his lips. "Fearful of being discovered?" I squinted my eyes. I am earnest in my intent. Embrace the journey ahead. Before he stepped out, he paused at the door, cast a glance my way, and said, "See you around, Grace." And just like that, he vanished. With a deft hand, I repaired the couch, tidied my hair, inhaled deeply, and then the front door let out a familiar creak as it swung open. "Nathan," I said, striving to keep my voice steady. He wore a smile, blissfully oblivious to the world around him. "Greetings, my dear." I returned the smile, my stomach still churning from the recent events. "Merely a day like any other. I appreciate your company as we explore the depths of Grace's world together. I trust it stirred within you a genuine emotion, something unforeseen. Now, I ask you, what sort of mundane existence are you prepared to confront in your own journey? We invite you to express your reflections in the space provided below. Let us continue our dialogue.